Today I read a book called The Super Chef Contest in the Geronimo Stilton Series. Let's go right into it. Bang, 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 bang! It was a beautiful morning. The first rays of the sun peeked through my curtains, warming the blankets on my cozy bed. I was tucked in peacefully, the covers pulled up, snoring like a hibernating dormouse. Oops, I always forget to introduce myself. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton. I am the editor of the Rodents Gazette, the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island. Anyway, I was dreaming of biting into my favorite breakfast treat, a cheese-filled donut with vanilla frosting, when suddenly I heard a deafening sound outside. What was that terrible noise? It sounded more or less like this. Bang, 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 bang! I jumped out of bed with a squeak, and I drew open the window and something wet, mushy, and smelly hit me right in the snout. Splat! Ugh! I spat out the soggy substance, which had a strange odor. What could it be? Argh! I squeaked. Who's there? What was that? Then I heard a familiar voice. Cousin! The voice boomed. Do you care about me or not? Only then did I understand that maybe, no probably, no surely it was my cousin, Trap Stilton. So do you like it? Trap yelled loudly. What was I supposed to like? I sputtered in response. I don't understand. As I was squeaking, Trap used a small wind-up catapult to shoot another smelly brown glob at me. It landed right in my mouth. I spat it out. It tasted disgusting. No, I yelled. I don't like it. But what is it? It's a liver-flavored, deep-fried cheddar cheese meatball, he announced proudly. Then he began to interrogate me. Why don't you like it? What would you change? Is it too sweet or too salty or too spicy or too bland or too dense or too soft or too... Stop, I yelled, cutting him off. I just don't like it, and that's that. Ugh. But Trap just pulled a notebook out of his pocket and began to write furiously. The victim, I mean the taster, I mean the assistant said he doesn't like it, and that's that. Ugh! Then he snapped shut the notebook. No, Geronimo, this doesn't work for me, he said. What doesn't work for you? I asked, confused. These tasting notes, Trap squeaked. You must be more precise, more complete, and go into more detail. Otherwise, how will I improve the flavor of my dishes? Raw egg smoothie, shells included. I watched from my window as Trap dashed into the enormous 2-story wide camper he had parked on my front lawn. Suddenly he popped up through the roof of the camper and jumped toward me, flying through my open window. He landed on the floor of my bedroom. I was flabbergasted. But the camper, the window, I squeaked, unable to complete a sentence. Then Trap stuffed a slice of cake into my snout. Wild onion cake with cherry cream cheese frosting, he announced proudly. Bletch, it was awful. It tasted like rank trash. I spat it out, disgusted. Here, cuz, Trap said, handing me a cup filled with a murky-looking liquid. Wash it down with this. Blanche, it was dreadful. It tasted like a raw egg smoothie with the shells included. I spat out the drink. This isn't going where Geronimo, Trap said, shaking his snout. You must give me more constructive feedback, understand? Otherwise, how will I win the Super Chef Contest and become the recipient of the Great Golden Fork? Then Trap reached over and tweaked my ear. Ouch! What are you squeaking about? I asked. Then I remembered an article I had published a few days earlier in the Rodents Gazette. Do you mean the upcoming Super Chef Contest in Gourmetville, which determines the best cook on Mouse Island? I asked Trap. Gourmetville is a small town and the capital of the region of Chinese and honey, which is famous because it produces the best food on Mouse Island. He reached over and tweaked my other ear. Double ouch! Exactly, he replied. And do you know who will win? Me! But there is one little teeny tiny detail. He reached over and tweaked my tail. Triple ouch! I need a victim, a taster, an assistant, Trap continued. And it's going to be you, cuz. But I really can't, I stammered. I have so much work to do at the office, and I'm not a very good cook. Why don't you ask someone else? Trap pointed his finger at me. You know you're a really selfish mouse, Geronimo, he said, poking me in the snout. Unfortunately for me, he missed his target and poked me in the eye instead. Ow! I yelled with pain. Ha ha ha! Trap laughed, oblivious. Did you get my little chef pun, cuz shellfish? Anyway, Trap continued, it's got to be you, I asked Thea, but she can't because she has to accompany Aunt Sweeper to a crochet class. I asked Coral Coco, but she can't because she's waiting for delivery of mussels from the Sea of Mice. I asked my friend Paws Prankster, but he can't because he's allergic to every food except cheese and spinach. I also asked my friend Fishy Fur, but he can't because he's having a birthday party for his pet fish, Red. I asked Tootsie, the Telltale Tavern, and he won't do it because a month ago, we had a fight, in which I was right naturally. I even asked my friends Squeaky LaRue and Henrietto Happy Paws, but they can't because well, I can't remember anymore, but they can't, you see. So now I'm asking you, Geronimo, you're my cousin and your family, right? He fell to his knees, pleading with me. I care about you, cuz, but do you care about me? Trap asked. If you do care, you would be my assistant. If not, admit that I don't matter to you a whisker and that all you care about is your work. Then he began to sob. I'm broke, G, he squeaked. I spent a fortune on this super camper, which is fitted with a top-of-the-line professional kitchen. But Trap, who made you buy an enormous super camper? I asked. He snorted. Well, no one, exactly, but, well, do you care about me or not? I sighed. It's true that I have a heart that's as soft as fried cheese. I'd be willing to do almost anything for any mouse who asks for my help, even if that mouse is my irritating cousin. I cleared my throat. Trap, if this is really that important to you, well, maybe I should, well, I'll be your assistant, I agreed. He jumped up and down with joy. Then he put me on board his super camper, which was indeed fitted for a professional chef. I looked around in shock. There was every tool imaginable, from A to Z, from apple cores to zesters. There were the most modern appliances, a library of recipes from the most famous chefs, and many, many other things. Trap's huge super camper. Okay, this is. Welcome to Gourmetville. Trap hopped in the driver's seat and drove off in a flash, tires squealing. And then he began to sing. The amazing Trap Stilton is on his way to cook the best dishes of the day. He'll slice them and dice them, and he'll fry them and ice them. And when he wins, he'll shout, hooray! Okay, that's the lyrics. I'm not planning to sing it. Trap wouldn't stop chattering as we drove. Don't worry, cousin, he bragged. This contest will be a walk in the park. The great golden fork is already mine. And do you know why? Because I'm the best. I'm prepared. I studied all the rules of the contest. Listen. Rules of the Super Chef Contest. The contest takes place every year in Count Ludwig von Schitter's ancient castle in Gourmetville in the region of cheese and honey. Count von Schitter was a true gourmand who was passionate about cooking until he died many years ago from indigestion. This contest is his legacy. Every rodent on Mouse Island is eligible to enter the contest. The contest lasts 7 days. The first 6 days are elimination rounds. On the evening of the 6th day, the top 7 participants will be selected to compete in the final competition on the 7th day. The winner will receive the Great Golden Fork Trophy, which he or she will retain until the following year's contest. In addition, the winner will receive a certificate that certifies him or her as Mouse Island Super Chef of the Year. May the best mouse win. I listened to him carefully. Moldy Mozzarella, the Super Chef contest lasted for 7 days, an entire week. Yikes, poor me. This meant that I would be required to assist my cousin for 7 whole days, which meant that I would have to taste yucky mush non-stop for 7 whole days. I became nauseated just thinking about it. Between that and the bumpy ride in the super camper, I was beginning to worry I might toss my cheese. Luckily, a moment later, I saw a sign that read, "Welcome to Gourmetville." We had arrived in Gourmetville, the capital of Mouse Island's cheese and lonely region, who is famous for producing the best food on the island. The cheeses in the city are the most delicious, the fruit is the tastiest, and the recipes are the most interesting. I looked around. Many of Gourmetville's antique buildings were decorated with elaborate plaster like frosted birthday cakes. The street had gourmet names: Frittata Alley, Cheesecake Lane, Sweet and Salty Street, Lasagna Way. The list went on and on. Street signs pointed the way to the Museum of Taste and the Museum of Cheeses. And there were so many places to eat. All around me there were restaurants, cafes, pizzerias, grocery stores, delis, ice cream shops, bakeries, butchers, and candy stores. On the main street, I spotted the offices of the local newspaper, the Gourmand Press. The editors only published recipes, results of cooking competitions, and restaurant reviews. The streets were clogged with tourists, journalists, and chefs who had come to Gourmetville to attend the event of the year. Trap turned down a narrow street that led to a small hill in the area that surrounded the city. The super camper climbed up the hill toward a castle perched on the steep rocks overlooking Gourmetville. It was Count von Chitter's castle. There was a huge banner hanging over the front door, the Super Chef contest. The line of chefs waiting to enter the castle snaked out the door and around the building, not once but twice. Fried snail pie with oyster sauce. We got out of the camper and Trap pulled out his mysterious locked red metal trunk. A sign on the trunk read, "Paws off." I wondered what was inside. But there wasn't time to ask him about it because he was already jostling to get into line. While we waited in line, I raised my eyes toward the castle and shivered. Dim lights shone from the highest windows, giving the castle a very spooky air. I remember some local legends I had heard. It said that the ghost of Count von Chitter still prowls the castle at night, complaining about his indigestion. But I didn't have time to think about it because there were lots of journalists hanging around the castle, and suddenly one recognized me. "Aren't you Geronimo Stilton?" he asked, "editor of the Rodents Gazette? Are you publishing a special report on the contest?" "Yes, I'm Geronimo Stilton," I admitted. But before I could explain that I wasn't there as the reporter, Trap plugged my mouth with a piece of fried snail pie with oyster sauce. "Don't get distracted," Trap hissed as he tweaked my ear. "So how would you rate this recipe on a scale from 1 to 10? "Ouch! And Blanche, the pie was disgusting. It's horrible," I screamed. "I give it a 3.5, and that's being generous." But instead of being discouraged, Trap just continued to shove dishes into my mouth. First course, a dark chocolate dumpling stuffed with pickles and dipped in strawberry sauce. "Arg!" Second course, a goat cheese tart with a spicy orange glaze. Blanche. Third course, beans and rice with chopped cherries and mayonnaise. Gross. Trap pinched my other ear. So he asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think? 8, 9, or maybe 10? I'd give you -1, I squeaked, gagging. All of those dishes were just awful. Trap leaned over and tweaked my tail. All right, cuz, he said, undeterred. That means I'll try again. I'll make you taste many, many more dishes until they are perfect, okay? I groaned. I felt sick to my stomach just thinking about tasting many, many more dishes. I considered ducking out of the line and trying to escape, but I suddenly realized that we were already in the castle and at the front of the line. A bored-looking official was questioning Trap. First name, the official asked, stifling a yawn. Last name, address, cooking experience. Naturally, Trap began to brag about himself. I am Trap Stilton, the best cook on Mouse Island. I'm a real expert. I mean, I understand food, you know. I'm the next winner of the Super Chef contest. Just wait and see. The official snorted. That's what they all say, he grumbled. If you really are the best, we'll all know soon enough. In the meantime, sign here. He handed a sheet of paper to Trap, then assigned him a name tag in the form of a chef's hat that said, Contestant Chef number 117. The official interviewed me next. Then he pinned a name tag on my chest and that read, Contestant Chef number 117's assistant. Trap grabbed a marker and crossed out assistant and wrote victim. Then he changed his mind and crossed it out again, writing taster instead. A moment later, a mouse with a megaphone made an announcement. Ahem, he cleared his throat. Attention. Contestants, tonight you and your assistants will sleep in the rooms you have been assigned. The contest will begin tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp in the castle's kitchen. With a sigh, I followed Trap down a dark, dismal corridor toward the room we were assigned to share. Torches on the walls cast super spooky shadows. I shuddered with fright. Who knew if the ghost of Count Von Cheddar would appear that night? Yikes! I noted that Trap also seemed to be in a hurry to get to our room. How strange! He ran through the corridor, dragging the large red metal trunk behind him. How very strange. Now, come to think of it, I was surprised he hadn't made me drag his trunk for him. How very, very strange. Cobwebs, vintage cheddar, and ancient stains. There were 2 crampy beds in our room. Each bed had red curtains and the gold chef's hat on top. They were also covered in authentic vintage cobwebs. Dusty cooking trophies lined the mantel, and an enormous oil painting of Count Ludwig von Cheddar hung on the wall. The painting smelled like authentic vintage mummified cheddar, and the bedspreads, curtains, tablecloths, and canopies were all stained with food. They were authentic vintage stains. I looked around the room feeling anxious. What if this had been Count Von Cheddar's bedroom? Instead, he rushed into the room, opened the screen in front of his bed, and pulled the red metal trunk behind it. How strange! A second later, something shot out from behind the screen. I bent down to find that it was an electric plug. How very strange! I stepped closer to the screen to give the plug back to Trap. Behind the screen, I saw my cousin reading an instruction manual. I made out the letters FRE before Trap quickly moved the screen so I couldn't see anything else. How very, very strange. Oops, sorry, I apologized. I didn't mean to pry. Well, don't speak anymore, Trap squeaked in reply. I'm not sharing my cooking secrets with anyone, not even you, cuz. And I heard a click, and I immediately began to hear a strange buzzing sound that continued all night long. A few minutes later, Trap began to snore loudly. Zzz. Between the buzzing sound from behind the screen and Trap snoring, I didn't close my eyes all night long. Next morning, a loud gong startled me. It was the signal for all of the chefs and their assistants to report to the kitchen. I dragged myself out of bed and headed straight for the mirror to comb my fur. "Ah!" I squeaked, gasping with fright. It was the ghost of Count Von Chitter. Trap sat up in his bed and laughed. "Ha ha ha," he giggled, scared of her own reflection. It was true. It wasn't a ghost in the mirror. It was me. I had such dark circles under my eyes that I hadn't recognized myself. I sighed. It was going to be a long week. Geronimo Stilton stinks. All of the chefs came out of their rooms at the same time. Trap was the only one accompanied by a victim, or rather, a taster, an assistant. Which is to say, me. We all headed to the kitchen, in which was a cavernous room decorated with a collection of antique copper pots. A contest official stepped forward, took an enormous ladle and banged it on an enormous copper pot. Ding! "The Super Chef contest has begun," he cried. Every chef began to cook immediately, but Trap pulled out a screen from his trunk and put it in front of his stove. "You," he ordered me. Taster, assistant. Stand in front of the screen and make sure no one spies on me. Got it? My recipes are top secret. Understand?" Then he pulled the red metal suitcase behind the screen where it was out of sight. The other chefs began to grumble. "It's not fair. Contestant Chef 117 is cheating." An official appeared at our station, followed by a mouse pushing a cart with a giant book on top. The book was called Rules of the Super Chef Contest. All right, he called out, silencing the contestants. "Let's take a look." He pored over the rules silently for a long time. Then he closed the book with a decisive bang. There was no rules that prohibits a contestant from putting a screen in front of his or her cooking station, he declared. Trap peeked out from behind the screen and stuck his tongue out at everyone. I turned bright red from the tip of my tail to ends of my whiskers. Why did my cousin have to be so embarrassing? Excuse us, I told the other contestants sheepishly. My cousin is very nervous because of the tension of the competition. The other chefs didn't buy it. They began to throw cabbage heads and rotten eggs on me. To save myself, I hid inside a garbage can. I re-emerged at the end of the day's competition. Unfortunately for me, I was greeted by the flashing cameras of all of the photographers covering the competition. And by then, I smelled like a sewer in the hot, sticky mouths of August. I imagined the headlines of the newspapers the next day. Geronimo Stilton stinks! Don't worry, Trap said. I'll take care of it. Trap pulled me behind the screen. He shoved me into a large pot. He horsed me down with a bottle of water. He dried me off with a dish rack. He combed my fur with a fork. Finally, he greased my whiskers with olive oil. Then he dressed me as a waiter and pushed me out from behind the screen. Now go serve my dishes with class. Understand? He squeaked. You must win. When Trap is around, it's never good for me. 1. When Trap mocked the other cooks, they all threw rotten eggs at me. That's him. 2. I didn't know what to do, so to save myself, I hid in the trash can. How stinky. 3. When I came out, I stank like a sewer rat, and the photographers took a ton of photos. Are you Geronimo Stilton? You stink. Poor me. I'll take care of it. 4. To clean me up, Trap shoved me into a pot and showered me with bottled water. 5. Then he dried with a dish rag and combed my whiskers with a fork. 6. Finally, he dressed me like a waiter and told me to serve his dishes with class. Yum, 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 yum. For the first time, I got a glimpse of the dishes my cousin had cooked. They looked delicious and they smelled divine. I licked my whiskers. So Trap knew how to cook. Why had he made taste all those disgusting dishes then? How strange. But I couldn't stop to think about it because my cousin tweaked my tail and began shrieking in my ear. Come on, Geronimo, hurry up, he squeaked. The judges are waiting. Don't make me look bad, I beg you. And above all, try to look like a waiter. Try to look like a waiter? What did that mean? I shrugged and placed a napkin on my left arm, trying my best. Then I stepped forward unsteadily, my shiny olive oil-coated whiskers trembling nervously. How stressful! I tried to balance all of the plates at the same time without stumbling and without spilling anything. Creamy cheddar was touched. I served the judges Trap food and stood there silently while they crunched and munched. The first judge was the famous Saucy Louis Potts, the biggest pasta expert on Mouse Island. The second judge was Gordon Ramsay, the most famous celebrity chef on Mouse Island. He was known for being very, very hard to please. Every time he tasted something, he said, "Ugh, not bad, but it needed a little more salt," or "Ugh, not bad, but it needed less butter." The third judge was Julia Mouselet, author of the celebrated cookbook, The Delight of Cooking with Cheese. She was famous for being a tremendous chatterbox. The fourth judge was Rodenta Ekego, a very serious food critic with a waxed mustache. He always wore very elegant tails and a top hat. The first judge, he's a pro with pastas, whether it's lasagna, tagliatelle, ravioli, or spaghetti. Second judge, an award-winning chef, was very intimidating. Everyone is afraid of him because he's very critical and he doesn't like anything. The third judge, she wrote a famous cookbook called The Delight of Cooking with Cheese. She doesn't know how to be quiet. The fourth judge, he's a very famous food critic with a tiny waxed mustache and a very big eagle, okay? I told you guys again, their characteristics. The four judges tasted all of the contestants' dishes in silence. After each tasting, each judge raised a scorecard with a number on it, from 1 to 10. But none of the contestants earned a score above a 6. Holy cheese, these judges were finally tough. When it was finally Trap's turn, Saucy tasted the dish quietly before he announced his score. Very tasty. My vote is 8. Gordon Ramsay grumbled. Ugh, not bad, but it needed a little more salt. Still, my vote is 8. Julia Mouselet consulted her famous cookbook and shrieked with delight. This chef has executed to perfection the recipe of page 33 of my book, she said proudly. My vote is 8. And he has nice whiskers too. They remind me of my cousin's uncle's nephew, Fred. Of my cousin, she would have gone on talking for at least an hour, but Rodento Ego leaned over and plugged her mouth with a piece of bread. My vote is 8, he announced. The host of the contest stepped up to the microphone. The winner of the first challenge is contestant Chef 117, Trap Stilton of New Mouse City, he said. Congratulations! Yes, Trap cried out. I'm the best. Pause off, miss. As soon as Trap stopped rejoicing, Julia Mouselet approached the screen. Her glasses were studded with rhinestones, and she had a high-pitched, dramatic squeak. Now that you've won, contestant Chef 117, what's in the trunk you have hidden behind the screen? She tried to push the screen aside with her paw, but Trap was too quick. He poked her paw with a rolling pin. Not so fast, he yelled. Paws off, miss. Every cook has his secrets, and I have a few of my own. Trap quickly closed and locked the trunk. Then he put a key on the string and hung it around his neck so that no mouse could open the trunk unexpectedly. How strange. I was about to ask for an explanation when he began pushing me toward the kitchen. Don't try to be sly, cousin, he said shrewdly. I did all the cooking, so you wash the dishes. I stared at the stack of dishes. It was a mile high. The dishes were also greasy and smelled worse than the sewers of New Mount City. What a terrible job! And while it's true that Trap had done the cooking, I hadn't even gotten to enjoy the food. By the time I had finished washing everything, it was late afternoon. There weren't any more challenges scheduled for the day, so I thought I'd relax a bit. I was just soon about to take a cheddar-scented bubble bath when Trap grabbed me by the ear and dragged me to his camper parked outside. Once there, he insisted I taste one disgusting dish after another. Trap said he was preparing for the next day. Yuck, poor me! While I swallowed each awful mouthful, I wondered how Trap had cooked such delicious dishes during the contest, but everything he had made me taste was so terrible. Then I realized it was probably just another one of his practical jokes. Trap loves playing silly little jokes on me. When he finally let me go, I had a stomach ache. I had to swallow a gigantic ant kit to help me digest everything. Then I climbed into bed and tried to get some rest. I tossed and turned for hours before I finally fell asleep. In my dreams, a portrait of Count Ludwig von Cheddar on the castle wall came to life. The Count did nothing but wail and complain about having a terrible stomachache. In the morning, I woke from my nightmare covered in sweat. I barely slept a wink. Oh, poor me. 7 chefs remained. For the rest of the week, the large kitchen in the castle was the site of one competition after another. On Monday, the chefs had cooked appetizers. On Tuesday, they made first courses. On Wednesday, roasts were on the menu. On Thursday, it was fish dishes. On Friday, they made cheese. On Saturday, it was dessert. And Sunday would be the final round. Each round, another chef was eliminated. By the Saturday evening, all of the defeated chefs had left the competition with their tails between their legs. Only 7 chefs remained, the 7 best chefs on Mouse Island. But at the end, only one would win. That mouse would receive the great golden fork. He or she would be Super Chef of the Year. The final chef. 1. Sammy Sugarpot. He's one of the finest pastry chefs in New Mount City. 2. Betty Bakermouth. He travels as much as he can and specializes in food from around the world. 3. Renee Brolier. Called the sophisticated chef, she is an expert in French haute cuisine. 4. Blaine McVeigh. The nickname is the Star because he always brags about his dishes. He says he doesn't specialize in anything because he's the best at everything. 5. Stella Sea Whiskers. Her nickname is the Fisher Mouse because she is great at fish dishes. 6. Charlie Custard. His nickname is the Egg Wizard because he specializes in egg dishes. 7. Trap Stilton. The journalists have nicknamed him the Mystery Chef because of his now famous scream. No one knows yet what his specialties are. His assistant and taster is Geronimo Stilton. The winning chef would get to appear on the hit television show Mouse Chef, and the winning chef would become famous all over Mouse Island. As we watched the contestants head home, Trap chuckled under his breath. "See you later," he said. I, on the other part, felt sorry for the chefs who had to leave. They had been up against tough competition, and I didn't like to see them go. On Saturday night, the remaining chefs went to their rooms early. Some reviewed recipes, some shined their pots and pans, and some went to bed early so they would be fresh and rested for the next day. Sunday would be the day of the final round in the Super Chef contest. Every contestant would have to show the judges his or her finest work. It wouldn't be easy to win the great golden fork. All of the chefs were very nervous that night. I offered to make everyone chamomile tea. I'm a modest mouse, but I must admit that I make a delicious and relaxing cup of tea. Still, the only chef who seemed calm that night was my cousin Trap. He hummed and whistled happily while everyone else trembled with nerves. Tra-la-la, sang Trap. The winner is here. How strange. Why was Trap so sure of himself when the other chefs were all so nervous? When I offered my cousin a nice cup of chamomile tea, he brushed me aside. You drink it, cuz, he squeaked. I don't need to. I'm already so relaxed because I'm sure I'll win. Then he dragged his mega trunk on wheels behind his screen. A moment later, I heard again a familiar buzzing sound, and then Trap began to snore as usual. Zzz. The chamomile tea I had made should have made me very sleepy, but I was wide awake. Even though I wasn't competing, I was just as anxious as the other chefs about the next day's contest. I was sitting up in bed reading to pass the time until I was tired enough to sleep when a terrible storm struck the countryside outside my window. The summer sky lit up with flashes of lightning as thunder shook the entire castle. A moment later, all the lights went out. Squeak! For the love of cheese, I was finally able to fall asleep many hours later when the thunder and lightning had stopped and the sounds returned. I woke up the next morning when my cousin's cell phone rang. It was my Aunt Sweetford calling. She has the loudest squeak ever, so I could hear the entire conversation clearly. So, dear, how was the party you had for your friends? He asked Trap. Did they like the dishes I prepared? Was the gorgonzola souffle good? And how about the 3-cheese lasagna? Souffle? Lasagna? Huh? What was going on? And tell me how the fondue was turned out. Aunt Sweetford continued. Was it melted enough? And was the eggplant parmesan cooked enough? And how was the ricotta pie? And the roast? And the cheesecake? And everything else? For the love of cheese, I couldn't believe my ears. Those were the dishes Trap had cooked during the competition. Thanks again, Aunt Sweetford, Trap replied into the phone. Everything was delicious. My friends devoured it all. You're the best cook in New City. Bye! What a scam! It sounded like Trap had cheated. But how had he done it? Aunt Sweetford had cooked all the dishes, but how had Trap kept them fresh? Of course, he had put them in his special trunk, which is really a portable freezer. That's why Trap had always hidden behind the screen. He didn't want anyone to see him pulling out the frozen dishes Aunt Sweetford had prepared for him. The plug I had seen the night we arrived was for the freezer, and the strange buzzing noise. Yup, it had been the freezer. So that's what everything my cousin tasted horrible, but he still won all the competitions. During the contest, he defrosted Aunt Sweetford's delicious dishes, while his practice dishes were what he had really made. And they were truly disgusting, believe me. But now it was very clear to me. My cousin Trap had cheated. I leaped out of bed and pushed Trap's screen aside. I can't believe it, Trap! I squeaked. You cheated! You tricked everyone! Shame on you! It's time for you to confess! Trap didn't look ashamed at all, though. But don't you think I'm a genius? Genius, cousin? Trap replied. I should win the contest just for my cleverness. I shook my head in disbelief. But before I could say anything, he threw open the freezer. This is the secret to how I'll win the title Super Chef of the Year, he exclaimed. Look at this beautiful food. Smell the amazing aroma. I looked, but the only thing I saw in the freezer was an oozing glob of green slime. and I smelled it. Too. P.U. What a stench. It smelled like rotten eggs, moldy socks, and gargonzola with worms, combined, pledge. The thunderstorm the previous night had caused the castle to lose electrical power, and the freezer had been shut off too. That meant all of the food had gone bad, and now it was covered in a swarm of flies. No! Ouch! I dislocated my knee. Trap gasped in horror. No! He squeaked as his snout turned pale. What a disaster! This is a complete catastrophe. It's a tragedy. He dove toward the fridge in an attempt to save some of the food, but he slipped it using green slime. Oops! Then he did a flip with a twist, shouted help, and crash-landed on the ground, bashing his knee. Bang! A second later, he started to yell and squeak in pain. Ouch! Ouchie! Ow! 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 I think I dislocated my kneecap. I broke my knee. I sprained my paw. I'm in big trouble. And then he fainted. I quickly revived him and then hurried to the door of the room where I called for help. It turned out there was a doctor staying at the castle. The doctor took one look at Trap and confirmed that my cousin really had dislocated his kneecap, broken his other knee, and sprained his paw. I called an ambulance and Trap had to be taken out of the castle on a stretcher. As he left, some of the other chefs kindly wished him a quick recovery, but others grinned, rubbing their paws together. How do you feel? Good luck. Poor guy. Excellent, very good, one chef muttered. That's one less chef to be defeated, another mumbled. This will make it easier to win, a third chef added. Julia Mouseflight approached the stretcher. Are you withdrawing from the competition, Trap? She asked. Trap almost leaped off the stretcher. No, he squeaked. I will not withdraw. I nominate Geronimo as my replacement. But many of the chefs protested. Are you withdrawing from the competition? Excellent. Oh no, that's not fair. Trap is the chef who entered the contest. If he goes, he is disqualified. A contest official frantically consulted the contest's large rulebook. Ladies and gentlemen, the rules are very clear, he explained. Article 737 says, if a contestant is forced to drop out of the contest for any reason, he or she can nominate his or her assistant as a replacement chef. No, I squeaked. I couldn't possibly accept. I had enough of tasting and cooking and scrubbing pots and pans, and above all else of my cousin's cheating. So you're abandoning me in my moment of need? Trap accused me from a stretcher. Here I am with a dislocated knee, and you're thinking only of yourself. I didn't think you were so selfish, cousin. But I've been helping you all week, I protested. I was your victim, your taster, your assistant, and even your dishwasher. Now I would like to go home. I have so much work to do at the office, and I trailed off. Trap was blowing his nose on my tie, sobbing like a tiny mouselet. You're so selfish. Wah! What? Everyone around us was watching and shaking their heads. What a heartless rodent, someone muttered. How could he abandon a relative like that? At that point, I gave in. Oh, all right, I agreed. I will compete in your place, Trap, but no more cheating. I'll compete fairly. Do you understand? He put his chef's hat on my head. Take this, he squeaked, and compete as you wish. Just whatever you do, win. I want the great golden fork. Work hard, and don't make me look bad. Moldy mozzarella, how stressful. Would I be able to do it? Something special? No, amazing. The first thing I had to do was decide on the menu. What could I prepare for the final contest? That night, it had to be something simple but delicious, traditional but original, filling but light. In other words, it had to be something special. No, something amazing. An amazing menu. But alas, nothing came to mind. I'm not bad in the kitchen, but I'm not great either. I like to cook the modest dishes to share with friends, but nothing more. In other words, I'm a normal cook. I'm nothing exceptional, and I am definitely not a super chef. How could I possibly win the contest? Then suddenly I had an idea. I would make something simple, light, and above all, genuine. It would be something I could prepare by myself without asking for help from anyone. I wanted to win, but I wanted to do it the right way on my own. I decided to cook my favorite 2 dishes, my mouse-tatic zucchini pizza and my fabulous fruit salad with cream. I took off my chef's uniform, grabbed my shopping bag, and set out toward the town of Gourmetville. When I remembered seeing tons of incredible grocery stores, I was sure I'd find all of the ingredients I needed to prepare my dishes. But when I arrived in town, I was astonished. The town was deserted. All of the stores were closed, every last one. What a disaster! Now where would I find the ingredients I needed? I headed back toward the castle, feeling very discouraged. I wanted to win for my cousin and for myself, but it was impossible now. What was I going to do? Then suddenly, I looked up and realized there was a farm in front of me. I had passed by it on my way to Gourmetville, but in my rush, I hadn't noticed it. There was a sign at the entrance that read, Aunt Mousie's Farm, genuine organic produce for sales, excellent prices. Friendly-looking mouse with rosy cheeks stood near the gate. She was wearing an apron with flowers on it and a large straw hat. She smiled at me. You look like a mouse with a problem, she said kindly. Is it a big problem or a little one? Oh, I squeaked surprised. Good day, ma'am. It's true, I have a problem, and it's an enormous one. You see, I am competing in the Super Chef contest, but all the stores in Gourmetville are closed and I can't get the ingredients for my dishes. Of course the stores are closed, she replied with a laugh. It's the final day of the Super Chef contest. In Gourmetville, that's a city holiday. Everyone takes the day off, but maybe I can help. Then she pinched my fur affectionately. Wow, did it hurt? Ouch, of course the stores are closed. Thank you kindly, ma'am, I replied, rubbing my cheek, but I don't know you could help me. We'll see about that, she squeaked. Then she reached out and grabbed my shopping list. Give me the list. I'll figure out how to help you win the contest. Huh? Give me the list. Operation Mouse-tatic Pizza. Aunt Mousie grasped me by the paw and pulled me onto the farm. Come on, she squeaked. We have work to do. Then she brought me to the vegetable garden. Then she grabbed a wicker basket and began filling it with delicious-looking produce. He dashed back and forth from one end of the farm to another, putting more and more into the basket. There were raw cherry tomatoes, bunches of fragrant fresh basil, 3 beautiful peppers, 2 small luncheons, and some seasonal fresh fruit she picked straight from the tree. 3 tomatoes, basil, and peppers, and fresh fruit. Organic foods are grown with the use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers, which can both be harmful to the environment. Organic farmers may use natural fertilizers such as compost or animal manure to nourish their crops. Some organic farmers use pesticides made from natural plant or animal sources to keep pests away. Next, Aunt Mousie brought me to the barn. She introduced me to her favorite cow, Margarita. And then Aunt Mousie told me to fill a pail with milk directly from the cow. Unfortunately, I am not very experienced when it comes to milking cows. To protest, first Margarita squirted me in the eye with milk. Next, she stomped on my paw. And finally, she kicked me in the tail. Ouch! I didn't realize farm life could be so hard. but something worse was still to come. Next, Aunt Mousy pushed me into the chicken coop and ordered me to fetch some eggs. You must be gentle with my chickadees. Understand, she explained, otherwise they will get very angry. I was gentle as well, a mouse. I even said please, but the hens still pecked my entire body with their sharp little beaks. Moldy mozzarella, those chickens had terrible tempers. Then Aunt Mousy pulled me into the pantry. She measured out a round of flour and passed me a packet of natural yeast. Here you go, she squeaked proudly. It's all natural. You'll taste the goodness. As we filled the wicker basket, Aunt Mousy checked off the ingredients on my list. Got it, she mumbled. Suddenly she gasped. Oh no, she squeaked. You're missing the most important thing for your pizza, the mozzarella. She grabbed a bucket and began to beat on with the ladle, making a tremendous racket. Ding, 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 ding. Mozzarella emergency, she squeaked at the top of her lungs. 2 rodents in white shirts came running, and they led me to the farm's dairy building, which is where they made the most delicious cheese. Yum, cheese! Like all mice, I like cheese. I like fresh cheese, aged cheese, extremely aged cheese, stinky cheese, and incredibly stinky cheese. In other words, I like it all. I just love cheese. But my favorite cheese of all is mozzarella. And there, right in front of my eyes, the 2 rodents made me the most enormous piece of fresh, delicious mozzarella. Yum, I feel like the luckiest mouse in the world. Go in for me. A short while later, I had everything I needed. It ended up being so much that the wicker basket wasn't big enough. I had to load everything in a wheelbarrow. I thanked Aunt Mousy with all my heart. Thank you so much, I told her. How can I ever repay you? Don't worry about it, she squeaked, kissing me on the cheek. Smooch, thanks for everything. Just win the contest. And when you do, be sure to tell everyone that you got your ingredients from Aunt Mousy's farm. Thank you, I replied, but I'm not sure I'll win. The other chefs are very good. Don't worry, you will win, she whispered in my ear. The secret to good cooking is in the quality of the ingredients. And I grow nothing but the best on my farm. Go win for me. Help. Then she gave me a big push and the wheelbarrow, and I began down a very steep hill. Help, I squeaked. Somehow I managed to hang on to the wheelbarrow. I made it back to the castle just in the nick of time. The final round of the Super Chef contest was about to begin. Just as they approached the castle, the wheelbarrow hit a rock and flew skyward, making a perfect arc through the air. I was gripping the wheelbarrow so tightly that I went along with it. The wheelbarrow and I passed through an open window and landed right in the castle's kitchen, right in the place assigned to me, right at the moment the head judge announced the beginning of the contest. I had made it by a whisker. I started cooking right away, putting all of my energy into my dishes. I wanted to win, but not for myself. I wanted to win for Aunt Sweetfur, who had made Trap's delicious dishes, and for Aunt Mousy, who had been so generous. So I prepared the most incredible mouse-tastic zucchini pizza I could, followed by the most fabulous fruit salad with cream I had ever whipped up. I knew I had done my very best, but when it was my turn to stand before the judges, my heart was in my throat, my whiskers trembled anxiously, and my knees were knocking from the tension. One at a time, the judges tasted my dishes. One at a time, they closed their eyes. One at a time, they licked their lips. But no one said a word. How stressful. Then they began whispering among themselves. The tension was almost too much to bear. Finally, the judges all scribbled on slips of paper that they handed to the host of the competition. He mumbled solemnly. The winner of this year's contest is contestant chef number 117, it's his assistant and replacement chef, Geronimo Stilton. After a slight pause, he continued. Contestant Chef 117's menu was the simplest, but also the tastiest and the healthiest. The judges could tell it was prepared with genuine, fresh ingredients. And congratulations! I was so shocked and relieved that I fainted. I came to a moment later when Rodento Ego poured a ladle of icy cold water over my head. "Wake up," he squeaked at me. "You won, and now we have to give you the prize." A moment later, I received the famous great golden fork. Luckily for me, my chef had disguised the enormous bump on my head. As soon as I accepted the prize, my cousin Trap arrived, using a crutch to hobble over to me, his leg in a plaster cast. He tweaked my ear affectionately. "Nicely done, Geronimo," he said. "You were very good, but I'm afraid I am the head chef, so I'll keep the great golden fork." Then he snatched the prize right out of my paw. I sighed and let him take it. I had only competed to make him happy. I wasn't interested in the prize anyway. But I was interested in repaying my debts to Aunt Mousy and also in giving Aunt Sleeper credit. They were the reason this trap and I had won, and I had to be sure everyone knew it. So when the television crew from Mouse Chef began filming a moment later, I was ready. "Dear Rodent friends, I want to reveal a secret," I said, looking straight at the camera. "Everything Trap cooked was made by Aunt Sleeper. She's the real head chef of our team. And the reason I won the Super Chef contest was because of Aunt Mousy of Aunt Mousy's farm. She taught me that in order to cook well, you need healthy, fresh ingredients that are simple and genuine, just like those she produces at her farm." After the Mouse Chef broadcast, healthy cooking exploded all over Mouse Island. And back in New Mouse City, every mouse who saw me on TV suddenly wanted to learn the recipe for my mouse-tastic pizza and fabulous fruit salad. Who would have thought life is full of surprises? Okay, that was the book I read. And I really appreciate you for watching. If you want more of my videos, please subscribe this channel and get notified for videos. Anyway, I really appreciate you for watching to the end. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.